Alright, hi, host Eric here in the second of a series of videos that I'm calling Human Frameworks, but I'm thinking about renaming because I think maybe the term elicits some negative response. What I mean by it is simply the dichotomies we use, and probably that's what I should call as human dichotomies, the choices that we determine as the means by which we understand our own choices. So that means, as in my first video, I talked about choosing to interpret one's own life according to thinking about one's potential or the potential of one's actions to attain certain measurable outcomes, and comparing one's attainment to those standards as a way of looking at oneself and one's life. That's going to necessarily produce an individual who behaves and views things differently than somebody who, for example, in the second example, is someone who views life as to achieve well in life is to attain authenticity in the moment. That this is a distinct framework for life. That they're not looking to achieve anything that is comparable to an external standard. That, to the extent that it is, it's a temporary one. It's got no sense of long-term. It doesn't operate on the plane of long-termedness in some sense, I would imagine, except you would say the authenticity is timeless. The self that it compares it against would be timeless in some sense. So that's what in general I mean by this topic series, that we can talk about these dichotomies as a lot of people will say the following thing. Well, what it really all boils down to is a framework are the different things that come after those words. Each of the different things that come after those words is a framework.
What it all boils down to is, and then they say a framework?
Right. So let's say, look, what it all boils down to is self-discipline. What matters in life is whether a man can get his shit together and pull the shit off and do the stuff he's got to do, okay? There's a certain amount of shit you got to do in life, and at the end of the day, if you get your shit done, you won't have any problems in life, and if you don't, you will. That's a framework. Or, what's really important in life is that you understand who you truly, meaningfully are, and you can tell by you can evaluate the way that you feel about the different relationships you have in your life, the different people in your life. Are these good people passing through your life? Are they bringing you good feelings, or are they people who are putting you down, bringing you down? These are the important questions you have to decide your life about. That's a framework.
Okay.
Now, obviously, no individual operates solely under a single framework. But the framework I operate under a lot when I'm having this kind of conversation, especially, like in this instance, the framework I'm operating under is, I understand all of these little frameworks down here so well that I can operate under this meta framework and explain all the other frameworks and hold them at a distance from me so that I'm not actually subsumed by any single framework by being the most meta frameworks. That's my little conceit, right?
Yeah, well, what I do is I try to find, I basically try out a framework, and I think it works, and then it stops working, and then I'm like, okay, that doesn't work, then I throw it away and try to move on to the next one.
I think that they're situational is probably the problem, is that we got to figure out ways to sort of to put on a given set of beliefs in accordance with the circumstances that would be most effective towards our desired outcome. Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, that would imply a lack of authenticity, right? If you can really just shift frameworks between any set of beliefs as is convenient to you, can you be said to authentically believe in any of them?
What if your framework is authenticity? Like I said, it all boils down to authenticity.
Okay, but I mean, I think that then the point is, for that individual, their life's effort then is determining that which is authentic about them and keeping it and nurturing it, and determining that which is inauthentic about themselves and excising it. Yeah?
That makes sense, yeah.
Okay, but see, I think most people are burdened by the fact that they don't have a single core framework that they're operating under. That they discover that no single core framework actually is a usable tool across multiple situations. And I think that's where the things start to blend together with the idea of the cognitive functions. That these basic frameworks, like ways of saying these things, I think it's interesting to think about them as sets of words, right? Like, oh my God, I am mortified. I am mortified. I cannot believe I said that to Judy. Ah, she is going to think I'm terrible. You know?
Yeah.
I don't know what framework that is, but it's like you're going through life always comparing your own social behavior to some optimized, perfect version of social behavior. In that instance, that would be a framework. I think a fairly undesirable one, personally, but that's just my taste in frameworks, you know.
That's one that a lot of people use, I think.
Yeah. You know, another framework is the opposite of that, the positive one of that, which is, oh my gosh, that is adorable. That is the most adorable, darling thing I've ever seen. I love it. Barbara, where did you get that, Barbara? You know, that's the equivalent, but it's on the positive side, right? They're commiserating with one another about some shared feeling about something. Commiseration. Immersion.
So would, like, the authentic framework, they could do that, but that would have to be the authentic response. Like, that dog is adorable. That's the authentic response. And then maybe another day they say that other dog sucks.
Well, I think what they're saying is I think that they are valuing authenticity as, I think they see it as, they frame it, instead of framing it as, I authentically feel this is darling, they frame it as, it is so wonderful that we are not worried about what other people think one bit. We don't, it may be dorky, it may be lame, but we do not care. It is darling, it is adorable, and we love it, girls, don't we? Like that thing, right? So they frame it as authentic in that fashion by juxtaposing it against some perceived judgment against it, which is actually really there, which is the thing that I'm displaying right now, right?
Yeah, well, the entire reason they had to bring that up is because they had to think of that and weigh it against their own framework, right? Like, because they didn't think of 20 other frameworks they had to weigh it against.
That's probably true.
Like, they had to think to themselves, okay, here's this other framework that says we should be doing this. Let's discount that by being authentic or whatever. Like, they had to weigh that, say we have to address this fact right here, and they didn't have to address like 10 other frameworks, you know?
Right. Yeah, there's a certain sort of stereotypical middle-aged woman archetype that I guess is probably just the SFJ in a nutshell, and they tend to be into that kind of stuff, you know, these sort of crafty little things and stuff that T's probably don't think intuitively make a ton of sense to be interested in, you know?
They're interested in things that, so what'd you say? You said that they're like interested in things that like thinkers aren't?
Well, I'm saying it's sometimes, I've in the past found myself wondering why are they interested in that? I mean, I just don't understand it, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't mean to dismiss it. I do get that there's a something to be gotten from commiseration, sharing in a celebratory feeling or a positive feeling, and that I do present as one of multiple human frameworks for your consideration in this number 2, featuring special guest Basement Overlord and the barking of my dogs on the topic of what was it about?
Frameworks.
One of those frameworks. Particularism, immersion, stuff like that. Alright, so word up. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to eat plenty of cheese.